Welcome to this tutorial. I'll be showing you how to make plackets for your sleeves. So the interface is 6.5 inches long and 1.5 inches wide. And I'll be dividing that into two to form two equal rectangular shaped interface like that. So after doing that, I'll also fold again on the top, and after folding again, I'll be cutting by a 1/2 inch mark from the edge to the top. And on doing that, I have successfully created an arrowhead for the upper part of my placket. Then I'll divide both carefully into two to make sure both are exactly of the same size. After dividing, I'll attach to the fabric. You just do that by placing one at a 3/4 inch away from the edge. Then after placing one at that distance, make sure the other one is at least 4 inches away from the first one. As you can see, I'm actually taking my time to make sure both are firmly held. So after making sure both are firmly held, I'll cut from the half position, that is from the half mark in between both interface. So I'll cut, then I'll follow the 1/2 inch cut to the left like that. On the other side, I'll start from the 1/2 inch cut, follow the arrowhead and also cut like that. Then I'll round up the initial cut. For the down line, you just make sure they are on the same line with the interface like that. Then I'll go straight to the bending process. I'll just bend from the 1/2 inch mark on the side. Then I'll bend the 1/2 inch excess on the top. You just make sure it is not bigger than 1/2 inch. You reduce. So I'll bend 1/2 inch on the other side as well. Then I will use my final bending on that part to just cover everything up like that. And that is exactly how you do your bending with your pressing iron. So when I'm done, I've succeeded in creating one of the plackets. Mind you, this placket can only work for one particular sleeve. So for the other one, I'll just do exactly the same. I'll bring the camera closer for you to see it clearly. So you just bend 1/2 inch on every side. Then the parts that contain the excess 2 inches will just cover the whole thing like that. Then you press. Now after pressing, the next thing I'll do will be to reduce that 2 inches excesses to 1/4 inch before the edge. So you just reduce it to 1/4 inch before the edge. Now when you are done, if you place both together, you will see that they are facing each other. So we are done with the placket. Next is our wristband. So this is a 2.5 inches by 10 inches cut, and I created a slant on the edge. You can leave yours straight if you want. So I attached that to the fabric, and I also created something of a replica of what I did for the first one, only this will not contain any interface. So I will make a 1/2 inch stitch on the edge to hold that folding like that. So you can see the back piece is 1/4 inch longer than the front piece. Then I will sew on the edge. After sewing on the edge, that's that. So I also created for the right and the left piece, which makes everything 4 pieces. So after sewing on the edge, you just turn it outwards like that, and that will be what you will get for your finished product. So after doing this, we'll just go straight to the cutting of the sleeve. So you have to understand how to cut the sleeve before you can fix your placket. So that's the placket facing each other like that. One can only work for either the right or the left sleeve. One can work for both right and left. So this is the sleeve we are working with, and that wrist part of the sleeve is 6 inches wide. So instead of marking 3, which is the midpoint. I'll mark 3.5. Then after marking 3.5, I'll go as long as 4 inches. On that 4 inches line, you cut from the beginning to the 4 inches point, then you cut diagonally to the left and also to the right. Mind you, both sleeves were placed together, right face facing right face. So when you did that 4 inches cut, you actually cut for the right and the left sleeve. So you succeeded in creating both the right and the left sleeve. So these are the plackets, both are facing each other. One can only work for either the right or the left sleeve. So like I said, they're facing each other, or if you turn it to the other way around, they're facing opposite sides. For the wristband, I already explained it before. So you just join both together, sewing on the edge, then you turn it outwards. So that's just exactly how the wristband works, and I make that half-inch stitch to hold that initial folding down. Since we are done with the placket and the wristband, we'll go straight to the fixing of the placket on the sleeve. So this is the sleeve, and this is for the left sleeve. So if you see the position of the cut, you will know which particular sleeve it will work for. So it is the part of the cut where the cut is facing. So this cut is facing the left side. So this is for the left sleeve. So to start the fixing of the placket of the left sleeve, you cut another piece that is longer than 4 inches and also as wide as 1/4 or 1.5 inch. Then you notify the wrong face, which you see me did with a chalk, after which we'll go straight to the fixing. So if you look very well, you will see that the sleeve is on the wrong face. So you place the right face on the wrong face of the sleeve on that edge like that, and you sew. After sewing, you turn it over to cover the right face. So you bring it from the wrong face, that is the piece you attached, and you use it to cover the sewing line of what you just finished sewing now. So you use it to cover it up like that. In a way, when you are covering it, you just make sure you don't bend any of the initial sewing line. So you just cover it easily like that. Don't bend whatever is inside what you are actually covering. So after covering, you sew on the edge like you see me doing, then you stop on your 4 inches point. Then you cut the excesses on the top and also the excesses on the down part. And this is the under layer of the placket. Now to fix the placket itself, you also fix it from the wrong face of the sleeve. So you place the placket like that on it, then you make your half-inch stitch as well. Your stitch would also stop on the 4 inches mark. So after getting to the 4 inches mark, you stop. So you just make your double stitch to seal the stitch like that. Then you also turn it to the right face as well. After turning it to the right face, you just start stitching on the edge. So whilst you stitch, you just make sure you drag your fabric to reduce the folding of the fabric underneath the placket. So you continue stitching and you start stitching upwards. Then you make sure you only stop at the part where the placket is now covering the underlaying part. So when you are sure, you make your cross stitch, and your cross stitch must cover the underlaying part by at least ½ inch. After that, the next thing is to go to your pressing table and give it a good press. But since we are done with the left sleeve, we'll go straight to the right sleeve. And if you have any problem while we are making the left sleeve, this is the time to pay attention and follow the process step by step. So place that piece side by side on the wrong face. So the right face of that piece facing the wrong face of the sleeve. Then you make your stitch to the 4 inches mark and you stop. So that stitch is actually ½ inch away from the edge. Only this time I'll be cutting off the excesses before I do my folding. While I was doing the left sleeve, I finished the sewing before I cut off the excesses. So you just cover the sewing excesses like that, making sure you don't actually fold or rumple the sewing excesses. Then you stitch on the edge of this folded fabric. So after stitching on the edge of the folded fabric from that beginning downwards to the end like that, we've succeeded in creating the underlaying part of the placket. So we'll go straight to the sewing of the placket. Now while sewing this part of the sleeve, so since the way the position of the sleeve is, we will not be turning it to the wrong face like we did. We'll just place it from the back, and so it is because of the way the machine works. You just don't sew right and left positions the same way. So you place it underneath the sleeve and you stitch. Then after stitching, you turn it outwards to cover what you just finished stitching. And after you've done that, you just sew on the edge from that top downwards like that, like you did. Then when you are crossing, you just make sure the placket is covering the underlaying part of it, and the stitch must cross the underlaying part by at least ½ inch. After fixing the placket, the next thing is to fix your wristband. But first, make sure the placket and the underlaying part are on the same line, because that is very important when you are fixing your wristband. So after checking that, you just make your ½ inch stitch to join both parts like that. And after stitching, you weave. But if you don't feel like weaving, what you just do is you weave the part that would enter the wristband, and that is the only part you just weave. So I actually weaved only just that part. Then I'll go straight to the fixing of the wristband. So I'll start from the underlaying part. So that's the part you actually start from. So before you do anything, you just make sure the back piece of the wristband is actually longer than the front piece, so that whatever you are sewing would also catch the back piece. Then you place the underlaying part of the plackets inside the wristband and you start stitching. So you insert the sleeve by just ½ inch inside the wristband and you keep sewing. So you start the sewing from that other end like that. So the actual other end of this side is the placket itself. So you just make a random folding like that, and you continue your stitching. It is when you get to a closer part to the placket that you will determine the exact amount of folding you are supposed to actually make. So you just keep stitching on the edge of the down part of the wristband. Like I said, you insert the sleeve just ½ inch into the wristband. So when I get to a part as close as that, I'll just round it up like that. Now whatever folding you took for the right sleeve is actually what you will take for the left sleeve. So after fixing the sleeve inside the wristband, you would also sew on the edge of the wristband, and that is a ½ inch stitch away from the edge. So we are done with the stitching. The next thing to do is just to go to your pressing table and press. After pressing, you come back and determine if you want it to be cufflinks or you want it to be button with a buttonhole. Then you use your zigzag machine to make your buttonhole and you fix your button, or you just make buttonholes on both parts if you're actually working with the cufflinks, and that's that.